Hey, it is 9 o'clock, and I want to be super punctual because we have a super full hour. I'm seeing that we have 127 people, 132. I guess the number is crawling upward as we get going here. So, good morning, my DOC colleagues. First, I want to say happy Latino, Latina, and Latinx Heritage Month. Also, if you aren't muted when you first join the meeting, please mute yourself. Thank you in advance. I also want to say welcome and thank you for joining us for the department's Outreach and Engagement Accomplishments Update. You being here is supporting your colleagues who are going to share joint presentations about key achievements and ongoing progress that spans across our divisions and various partnerships throughout the state. We are going to spend the next hour recapping inspiring accomplishments over the course of the last about year and a half. And it feels valuable to have this opportunity to share with you about meaningful tribal outreach, energizing grantee workshops, strengthening partnerships with local governments, and really positive interagency collaborations that are genuinely elevating our programs and our mission here at the department. So one of my objectives with this update today is to intentionally pause and acknowledge the great work that's been done by our colleagues. I personally feel, and I've also observed other folks within the department, that we often move at a marathon pace and don't create too many opportunities to celebrate our wins before we're like on to the next thing, right? So this time today is for us to have a sense of our colleagues' accomplishments and progress and celebrate those big and small wins together. All right, so before we dive in, I want to first get a sense of who here is representing our 5 divisions. I see we have 195 people with us right now, which is awesome. So I'm going to name out our 5 divisions. And when you hear your division called out, I invite you to select an emoji reaction. This can be a heart, a thumbs up, a clap, that little party thing to let me know that you're here representing your division. Okay, so I'm going to first start with Division of Administration. If you're here, shout out, a few claps, little hand raise. Excellent. All right, and how about folks from the California Geological Survey? Where are you at? Lots of claps. Oh, I love me some heart emojis. Awesome, thank you for being here. All right, Division of Mine Reclamation. Who is here from DMR? Oh, it's always good to have you guys here. Thank you. Division of Land Resource Protection. Where are my friends from DLRP? Excellent. Thank you. This is so fun. This is so simple but fun. Geologic Energy Management Division. Last but not least, who from there is here? Oh, a lot of folks. Nice. That's awesome. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for playing along. All right, let's keep us going. Glad you're here. So here is our agenda for this morning. We are obviously in the process of our welcome. I will then hand it over to our outreach and engagement advisor, Sarah Rubin, who will walk us through specific initiatives that were accomplished in 2024. She will also share a fantastic graphic that illustrates these highlights created by graphic designer Paul Gordon from the Public Affairs Office. Thank you, Paul. Shout out to you. Next, we will hear from our tribal liaison, Crystal Blue, about the department's very first tribal roundtable that occurred earlier this year. We'll also have an opportunity to meet our brand new tribal coordinator, Amelia Bryan. So please be sure to give her a super warm welcome and maybe even emoji reaction when she comes onto the mic. And I'm excited for all of you to learn about the Division of Land Resource Protection's recent regional forest and fire capacity program first in-person grantee workshop. Jenny DiStefano and Hannah Page will be sharing their most valuable highlights from this event. And I'm just realizing that this agenda is like really sprinkled with milestones and first timers, so that's really cool. Then we will turn it over to Lindsay Whalen from the Division of Mine Reclamation and Mallory Jones from the State Mining Geology Board to learn about their current effort of coordinating meaningful site visits with lead agencies in different counties. And for the last update, you will hear from Associate Oil and Gas Engineer Supervisor Mike Cannon, Outreach and Communications Analyst Jeanette Ochoa, and myself about our collaborative effort related to CalGEM's State Oil and Gas Abandonment Program. So as we move along, I genuinely invite all of you to drop all of your questions, all of your comments in the chat as presentations progress, and our colleagues, our presenters, will respond to you once they finish their presentations. So if anything inspiring comes up or any burning questions arise, I encourage you to put them into the chat and get some side conversations and connections happening there. Okay. I want to now invite Sarah Rubin to share her updates. Sarah?
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning, DOC. If I have not met you yet, my name is Sarah Rubin. I am the department's Outreach and Engagement Advisor, and I am pleased to share a few highlights from our very cool infographic that, as Jamie mentioned, our colleague Paul Gordon created. So first, I'm going to start coaching and division support. If you haven't had a chance to work with Jamie and I yet, we are here to serve you all with support for your work. One example I'm going to mention is work done last year with DMR on their mission and vision statements. We had 3 different workshops. Fantastic experience for me getting to connect with people and really think through what the division is focused on and trying to accomplish. The next thing I want to highlight is our trainings. So if you haven't taken a training with us, we really would like you to consider it. We gave 12 trainings last year for over 300 people. I'll drop a link into the chat in a moment, but oh, Jamie's just done it. So you can check out our SharePoint page to see trainings we offer. But if there is something going on with you, you don't even have to say like, I'm interested in a training in conflict resolution, or I'm interested in a training in meetings that aren't boring, that I am not leading. Like we even give a training in how to make meetings that you aren't leading better. So whatever might be your challenge, we can try to support you. And then the last thing I want to highlight is I'm very proud of our language access work we've been doing at the department. And last year, as an example, we led 2 public meetings in Spanish, one in Arvin and one in Oxnard. And the one in Oxnard actually was trilingual. So we had it led in Spanish, interpretation into English, and then there was also interpretation into an indigenous language called Mixteco. So you can see we're doing all kinds of interesting work. These are just a few highlights, but for the sake of time, I'm going to hand it right back to Jamie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yes, so I just dropped the link into the chat. If you would like to visit, I highly encourage you to visit our outreach and engagement resource page. There's so many things available to you, and there's also our contact information if you are in fact interested in the trainings that we offer annually, and maybe even more tailored trainings specifically for you and your team. And before we transition, I just want to note that we have 218 people here with us today. So welcome for those who have just joined. I'm glad you're here. And I'm excited to now invite Crystal Blue to share her update on tribal outreach and engagement related to the department's inaugural tribal roundtable earlier this year.
Thank you, Jamie. Machexas, Kanang Oyasek Crystal Blue, Kuchiate Apakmikoi. Hello, I am Crystal Blue. It is good to be here with you all. I am Miwok Anishinaabe and a tribal citizen of Ione Band of Miwok Indians, and I am honored to serve as the first tribal liaison for the Department of Conservation, and I began in January. So today I'll be highlighting a tribal engagement accomplishment from earlier this year. Next slide, please. But before I hop into that, I'd like to take a moment to introduce DOC's new tribal coordinator, Amelia Bryan. Her role, I'd say, is another accomplishment. She will support tribal engagement and outreach across all of the departments, and we're so excited to have her join the team. She comes from FEMA, where she served in the Office of Tribal Affairs. And Amelia, I'd like to take a moment to have you introduce yourself.
All right, thank you, Crystal. Hello, everyone. So I'm Amelia, the new tribal coordinator working under tribal liaison Crystal Blue. Currently on my 4th week with DOC, and just want to give you a quick snippet of my background. So I graduated from university during the height of the pandemic and decided to serve 2 terms with AmeriCorps out here in Sacramento, which, if you're not familiar with AmeriCorps, basically, I like to describe it as a domestic Peace Corps. That experience laid the foundation of wanting to work as a public servant, especially focused on equity within marginalized communities. After my AmeriCorps and FEMA Corps terms, I decided to go into nonprofit, specifically focused on educational equity within underserved communities in Sacramento. I then transitioned into my career in emergency management with FEMA, where I worked in tribal liaisons programmatically for the region. I'm looking forward to bringing that experience to DOC, especially with building out a new tribal affairs unit. And I'm excited to collaborate with all my colleagues and to continue growing my knowledge in different areas as it relates to tribes. Thank you all for the warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Amelia. And again, we're so happy to have you a part of the Department of Conservation. Next slide, please. All right, so in March of this year, DOC hosted the SB 1137 Tribal Roundtable, and it was held to provide an opportunity to consult and engage with tribes on SB 1137's proposed regulations. And it further aligns with DOC's commitment to building relationships with tribes and also the directives from the governor's office and agency to engage with tribes before making any decisions that may impact tribes. And so what is tribal consultation? It's a legal and sovereign right and recognizes tribes as sovereign governments with distinct rights, allowing for government-to-government dialogue between the state and tribes. And it's a meaningful process that involves seeking, discussing, considering the views, knowledge, and expertise of tribes. And so when conducting tribal engagement and consultation, it should be done in a meaningful way and early and often. Next slide, please. All right, so just very quickly, if you're not familiar with SB 1137, it's a law that was passed in 2022 that deals with oil and gas wells and creates a health protection zone around areas like homes, schools, and hospitals. And it doesn't allow for new oil and well operations within those zones. And so it's meant to prioritize and protect people and communities from health and environmental risks that come with being too close to oil and gas operations. And so earlier this year, the department engaged with tribes to learn about tribal perspectives on SB 1137's proposed regulations. So that's a little bit of context for those who aren't familiar with it. Next slide, please. Okay, so the purpose of the Tribal Roundtable and why is tribal engagement essential and valuable? So tribes have a right to be consulted and engaged on issues, projects, programs, and laws that may impact them, their people and citizens, tribal lands, tribal rights, and tribal cultural resources. And tribes hold a unique knowledge of cultural and sacred places and landscapes and practices. And so tribal input helps avoid any harm to cultural resources and cultural heritage. And furthermore, engagement builds trust and openness. And so it's also important to note that engagement with tribes is not optional. It's a responsibility that's rooted in law, policy, and tribal sovereignty. Next slide, please. Okay, so as far as the outreach process and approach, I was only a few weeks into the position, I was only a few weeks into the new position when we sent out the tribal notification letters for this roundtable. And I was only 2 months in when we held the roundtable. So naturally, there were some nerves. And so it was important for me to ground myself into why the department was leading this effort, and also ground the approach in respect for tribal sovereignty and the importance of building relationships with tribes. And so it was vital for me to review, research, and learn all that I could about the issue at hand. Of course, coordinating logistics, collaborating with colleagues. I was so thankful for the knowledge and help from the team, and just working with my colleagues. And then practice and dry runs were really important. And essentially, good planning ensures success. And so as far as the outreach process, there were a number of ways that we connected with tribes. We sent out letters and emails. I made phone calls. I relied on trusted relationships that I've built over the years. And I'd say that relationships are so important, and personalized outreach is key. And then when we held the roundtable, it was important for me as the facilitator to create a welcoming and respectful space, have a positive tone, and create a space where tribes felt comfortable and could speak openly. And our role was to listen. And then follow-up included a thank you to the tribes, sending materials like the slides, links, and other helpful information, continuing to engage with tribes that were not able to attend, following up on action items and next steps, and also inviting tribes with an opportunity to continue consultation with us. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you can imagine, the SB 1137 Tribal Roundtable was a big accomplishment for the department, and it was designed to specifically hear from tribes on an important piece of legislation. And so one of our biggest accomplishments was strengthening relationships with tribes. Tribes said that they felt heard and they appreciated being included. We opened ongoing lines of communication, built trust, and established new connections. And through this roundtable, we were able to introduce tribes to DOC and important issues that may affect their communities. Tribes also expressed gratitude for being included in the process. Some tribes shared that they had never heard of this and it was their first time hearing about SB 1137. So tribal input contributed to the perspectives that we may not have otherwise considered. We had participation from tribes of different regions with different experiences, and it provided a space for tribes to ask questions, raise concerns, and really shape how DOC approaches and considers the implementation of SB 1137. And so through this experience, we made connections with tribes, tribal leaders, and tribal representatives. Several tribes requested individual consultation, which we followed through with. And overall, the roundtable created opportunities for ongoing relationships and partnerships and learning. All right, next slide, please. And so some lessons learned, engagement must begin with recognition of tribal sovereignty and respect for tribal rights. Engagement is an opportunity to learn from tribes, to strengthen outcomes. It's important to be prepared and be thoughtful, research, learn, ask questions, to learn all you can about the topic, issue, or project. Support and collaborate with your colleagues, practice and prepare to build your confidence. And then relationships are truly foundational. Relationships matter and they're so important. So taking the time and energy to build positive, trusting connections will make all the difference. And strong relationships are key to lasting partnerships. Next slide, please. Tangi Kamu, thank you. Thank you all for being here and allowing me to share this highlight. Please know that I'm here as a resource for all of you. And if you or your team need support or want to engage with tribes, please feel free to reach out to Amelia or myself, and we're happy to support your efforts. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal and Amelia. It is truly a huge win to have the both of you on our team at the department. So thank you so much. All right. Let's move right along. I'm happy now to turn it over to my friends at DLRP to share with you about a really inspiring and energizing grantee workshop that was held at Sacramento headquarters. Jenny and Hannah, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. It's really exciting to be here with you. I'm here with Hannah Page, and we are from Division of Land Resource Protection with the Regional Forest and Fire Grant Program. We're here to talk to you about our spring grantee gathering earlier this year. This was a super exciting event for us, and we had originally started planning this meeting back in 2020. As you might remember, early 2020, we had everything ready to go. We were going to have the grantee meeting in March, and then COVID hit. So everything stopped. We put it on the back burner, and last year, the grantees said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could all get together?" And we said, "Yes, it would be." So we planned this gathering, and in April, it took place. Next slide. Something to note about this gathering is back in 2020, we started with just 6 regional grantees, 2 statewide grantees. It was only going to be about 20 people. This gathering included all of our new grantees. We're up to 11. We have other statewide we have 11 regional grantees and other statewide grantees. This gathering brought about 80 people together, including some partners. So that's how much the program grew over those years. Let me give you some program background. Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Grant Program was designed to give out block grants to regional entities whose task is to work in their region to build their capacity and other local capacity to address forest and fire issues in their region. They do planning, they do other capacity building activities, they implement demonstration projects. There's really a wide gamut of what they do, and we are currently covering most of the state. The attendees came from all over the state. We really had most of the state represented, which was super exciting. Okay, next slide. So one of the coolest things we did at this gathering was a grantee timeline activity. If you look at this, so what we did, we put a big paper across the wall, and we gave people markers, and we told people, go up to that paper and write what you accomplished in those different years that were listed on the paper. In the beginning, back in 2018, it was pretty much just us putting stuff up. But you can tell here towards the end of the timeline, there's just a massive amount of accomplishments listed. The grantees really loved this activity. It allowed them to visually see what they accomplished. It allowed us to look back and say, wow, look at how we've grown. We started with 1 person as a grant manager. We now have 8 grant managers, a boss, a manager. It's just we've grown ourselves, not just the grantees, but our program as well. So if you ever get a chance to bring people together, develop a timeline of what they've accomplished over a time period, I highly recommend it. We still have this. We have this paper rolled up, marked, please keep. We're planning to use this again at some point. When we get the grantees back together, we'll be able to just demonstrate This is where we came from. And as Brian is mentioning in the chat, the blue dots on the timeline are new funding sources they received, and the red dots represented new staff hired. So you could see all the dots just keep growing and growing over this time. So really cool visual representation. It allowed people to talk, it allowed people to interact. It made for a really great event. Also part of this event, we allowed time for new connections. We, on the first day, held something called Shift and Share. We brought 4 different representatives. One person from CNRA, or 2 people from CAL FIRE, and we brought Patrick Wright from the Forest and Wildfire Task Force, Resilience Task Force. We put people in groups, and the groups would move along and talk to each of these representatives for about 15 minutes. This gave them a great opportunity to talk one-on-one with these high-level people to get their questions answered, and to voice their concerns as well. So it was a great opportunity for them for the grantees to make new connections, and for state staff to make new connections as well. Okay, next slide. So on day 2, we held some skills sessions. This is something the grantees said that they wanted to do. They wanted to learn from each other and from experts. We held a session on equitable outreach, workforce recruitment and retention, and regional priority planning. So you can see in this picture, these people sitting around are from all over the state. I see somebody from Napa, somebody from San Diego, somebody from Glenn County. These people don't get together in their day-to-day world. This gave people an opportunity from all over to share experiences and to talk about how they're similar to, help solve problems together. So this was another cool day. Now I am going to turn it over, next slide, turn it over to Hannah Page, who was really new at the time of this event, for some event reflections and how it benefited her.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So yeah, I'm Hannah Page. I am a newer grant manager at the Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Program. And I was very lucky to have come on about 6 months before this event happened. So as Jenny mentioned, this gathering was a long time coming. I had no idea that it was literal years in the works. And I just happened to enter the scene a few months before I got to be in the room with all of our partners and all of our grantees. So that was an amazing stroke of good luck, because having this event at this time and being able to participate in it when I did was really valuable for me, both professionally and personally. I think professionally, it was good to just be in the room and put my face in front of these people who I'm now responsible for supporting and, being a champion of their work. All of a sudden, they started getting emails from me when I joined the team, and now they had a face to associate. So I think that was huge. I also think those skills building sessions were really valuable. As a newer grant manager, I like to think it gave me an opportunity to sort of flex some of the skills that I already had and make myself available as a resource for my grantees. And then obviously I learned a ton from our partners and from our grantees. We tend to divide up our program by regions, so different grant managers work in different regions, and having everyone in the same room and hearing what my colleagues, grantees are working on was really inspiring and educational. I also think it impacted me really personally, and that's because this whole event was designed to be inspiring and left, I think, everyone with a greater sense of motivation. Like that timeline exercise, for instance, gave a really powerful visual of like just how much momentum our grantees and partners were picking up over the years, like seeing more of those dots get added to those timelines representing new staff hired and new funding secured, and seeing that more dots are added every year. It was just like, wow, like we've had a huge impact. In some cases, I'd see someone put a dot on the timeline and be like, that was when I was hired. I graduated from college and I wanted to work in this field. And because of RFFC, I was able to. And now, like, you get talk to them and you see the things that they've impacted with their work. Like, it was just huge. And like, how can you walk away from something like that without feeling inspired and motivated and honored to be a part of the team? It was just really cool to participate in and to witness. My colleagues did a really amazing job facilitating it. Honestly, if you hadn't heard about it ahead of time as an attendee, you would have had no idea that this was the first gathering of this kind, just because it was so effective and it felt like all of these people had been there conversing and working together for years, which I guess in a sense we were, just from afar. But I think I attribute that to all of the support. Well, one, I attribute that to my colleagues being such amazing facilitators and being so skilled, and it left me excited to continue to work with them and learn from them. But I also know a lot of that came from the support and training that we've received from Sarah and Jamie and the PAO team over the years. So it takes a village, and I'm excited to be a part of this village now. And I know I've heard from my grantees since then that they found this event to be really impactful. And I think that we should all be leaning on our PAO team. And this is just a testament to how effective our DOC team is.
Thank you all so much. And I also just wanted to quickly say, Sarah Rubin was really involved with helping us develop the agenda, and we couldn't have done it without her. Next time you have an event like this, Sarah is definitely somebody you should consult. Sarah and Jamie are wonderful and super great to have their assistance.
Thank
Aw,
you,
right on.
Jenny. That's so sweet. Thank you, Jenny and Hannah.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Hannah. I really appreciate that. It is truly inspiring to see everyone from across the state gather in one place at the same time. That's slowly but surely not becoming abnormal. It's becoming the new norm. And I also was making a few connections in relation to that timeline that you all did. This is kind of like doing a different version of a timeline for us, a more condensed version of just like really looking back on the work that has been accomplished before looking ahead, and just how valuable that exercise is in whatever form. So thank you so much. Let's move us right along. I am happy to now hand it over to Lindsay and Mallory. And they're going to give us a cool update on this specific initiative that is taking place. And when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mallory Jones. I'm a geologist working with the State Mining and Geology Board. And later on, Lindsay Whalen, who's the supervisor of the Division of Mine Reclamation, will be coming on. And we're going to be talking about SMARA, the Surface Mine Reclamation Act, and responsibilities that each of the agencies do have under that act. And Lindsay will come on later to talk about some of the recent outreach efforts that we've all been collaborating with. So we'll get started. Next slide, Jamie, thank you. So just a little background on the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act. It's under the Public Resource Code under PRC Section 2712. And it's meant to ensure an effective and comprehensive surface mining and reclamation policy to ensure that adverse environmental effects are prevented or minimized, and reclaimed lands are made into a usable condition after the surface mining operations are concluded. The Surface Mining Reclamation Act also ensures that production and the conservation of minerals is encouraged while also considering the adverse environmental effects, and that the mining surface mining operation is reclaimed so that residual hazards and are eliminated for public health and safety. Next slide, please. So SMART is meant to be run at the local level, meaning that it's enforced by cities and counties throughout California. But the State Mining and Geology Board, the California Geological Survey, and the Division of Mine Reclamation also have responsibilities under SMARA. And so I'll give a little overview of those responsibilities, and then Lindsay will come on to go in to a little bit more depth and also talk about our recent efforts to collaborate with those lead agencies. Next slide. So the State Mining and Geology Board is made up of 9 members. They're all appointed by the government and confirmed by the Senate, and they serve 4-year staggered terms. Each member of the board has a mandated specialty, whether it be just general geology, seismology, just a public member or someone in the local government. These specialties are mandated by statute, and right now we do have a full board, which is great because it's the first time since I've been there in the last 4 years that each position is filled. Next slide, please. So something I did want to come on here and kind of emphasize is we do have those 9 board members, but also we do have board staff, which is what I'm a part of. I'm a geologist with the board, but board staff is also made up of an executive officer, who's Jeffrey Smith, a senior geologist, Paul Fry, and we also have a regulatory analyst, Natalie Decio. So we work for the board. And one of our responsibilities is to coordinate and hold public hearings. So we do have monthly board meetings, and we also collaborate with CGS to hold public comment hearings for Mineral Classification Acts, earthquake hazard maps, and Alquist Priolo fault maps. And if you guys are interested in joining those public meetings, I'll drop our email in the chat, and that's how you join our eBlast list. So you can have access to, like, whenever we do have those meetings, you can come hybrid, or we usually have them either on the 2nd floor or in the auditorium. Next slide, Jamie. So the board is granted authority under 3 acts. In statute, we operate under the Natural Resource Agency, and our responsibilities are under the Alquist Priolo Fault Zoning Act, the Seismic Hazard Act, and the Surface Mining Reclamation Act, which we'll be focusing on today. Next slide. Thank you. So our responsibilities under SMARA is to create state policy for mining and mineral conservation by collaborating with CGS and DMR. We also certify local mining ordinances. We serve as an appeals body for anybody in the industry or lead agencies. And we also review lead agency performance, which has kind of led to these outreach efforts that we've been collaborating with CGS and DMR with. And in some cases, after we do review those lead agency performances, we can assume lead agency jurisdiction when appropriate. Next slide. So as of now, we are overseeing 28 surface mining operations due to either lead agency takeover after lead agency review, or by default when a lead agency does not have a certified mining ordinance per statute. So here's all the areas that we are overseeing. We have a couple counties and some cities throughout California, throughout like northern, central, and southern. So we're pretty spread out as far as that goes. Next slide. There should be one more after that. Jamie, sorry, can you back up? Back. Oh, we're missing a slide. I'll just go ahead and say this is we are also overseeing 7 sand dredging operations within the Bay Area Conservation District. And we also oversee 14 borrow pits along the Colorado River Aqueduct that are operated by the Metro Water District. So altogether, I think it's like 48 mines, surface mining operations or something like that. Next slide, please. So as far as lead agencies go, their SMART responsibilities include approving permits for surface mines and reclamation plans, conducting annual inspections, and reviewing financial assurances, and in some cases pursuing compliance and enforcement. And whenever the board is taking over those lead agency responsibilities, we do all of that except for permitting and other land use decisions. Next slide. And I think this is where I hand it off to Lindsay. So thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat, and then I'll put our email in there if you guys are interested in joining our eBlast.
Thanks, Mallory. Yeah, so I really appreciate that you took the time to talk to folks about what SMGB does. You know, it was very confusing to me when I started about 3 years ago because they've quasi within our department. So I'm glad you took the time to do that. I'm going to quickly explain what CGS and DMR do with respect to SMARA, because Mallory covered local governments here. Those are lead agencies, and also obviously what the board does. So the California Geological Survey has a unit, a program that works on mineral resource conservation. Essentially, their job is to calculate reserves of for future use and inform cities and counties who make zoning laws and et cetera, usually by publishing maps and some outreach, essentially to ensure that those are available when needed in the future, right? Because you don't want to cover aggregate, for example, that's going to be needed to build roads or bridges, cement, materials that are needed for cement to build houses, etc. You don't want to cover those with housing, right? Because then you can't access it anymore. So that's what they do. And the DMR, I'm the head of DMR. We have our program essentially provides support, mostly to lead agencies. We provide technical guidance. We also track and report data, and we collect the fees for all the programs, so at least the state programs, so CGS and SMGB included. So essentially, we have an administrative and support role. Next slide, please. So I'm going to zoom back out as a setup for explaining what this outreach effort is. If you think about mining and all of the type of oversight that the government does in California, there are a lot of different agencies involved. So the text on the outside is essentially all of the major ways that somehow government is involved in overseeing modern mining or abandoned mines. If you click for me, next slide. There we go. This is what Mallory and I have been talking about. Reclamation, abandoned mine remediation, mineral resources. This is how DOC is involved. Our oversight is really limited to the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act. But there's also that green circle around local governments. So this is really just a simplified Venn diagram, essentially, that demonstrates that local government has a hand in almost everything. And therefore, collaboration with all of these different state and federal agencies that oversee mining as well is really critical. Next slide, please. So as Mallory mentioned, SMARA is a state law, but it's implemented at the local level. Cities and counties are responsible for the primary implementation of it. So if you step back and think about this, essentially this is putting local interests over state interests. And most people think, oh, state always has more authority. Well, that is not true. That is not how the hierarchy works. There are certain situations, and mining is one of them, where the state legislature essentially decided, I wasn't there at the time, but I assume that they decided that the community interests were paramount. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Mines are dusty, they create a lot of traffic, they're noisy, they also create jobs. So those are community impacts that it makes perfect sense. We would want to make sure there are community decisions about. But that also means that state interests can sometimes take the back seat. And so thinking about, exactly how it's implemented, you're going to get a lot of variety, right, with different cities and counties implementing this. So consistency could be an issue. Maybe they're not very interested in what the state priorities are, things like climate change and other things. You just, it's really variable. Next slide, please. So taking an example, Merced County, it's a fairly small site. And thanks to PAO for putting this really beautiful graphic together. This is showing you all the different mines. This includes historical or legacy mines, abandoned mines, as well as SMARA mines. But you can see they have quite a few. Next slide, please. That said, counties do a lot. Cities and counties do a lot. So this is literally just a screenshot of the first page. You can see the two right columns there are all of the different departments. And I know you can't read this, but I'm gonna tell you, you can't see mining anywhere on here. There's no SMARA on there. I happen to know that the SMARA program is located within the planning department at Merced. So if you click again for me, next slide. This is the planning department webpage. And again, you don't see anything about SMARA and you don't see anything about mining. So it isn't always a priority for counties. And again, that makes sense, right? The state legislature decided that this should be up to them. But that does make it difficult, right? There are things that we want to be consistent. CGS wants to make sure that there is that aggregate and the cement materials. We want to make sure that we're getting all of the data for them to make those calculations. We want to make sure the operators are complying for a whole lot of reasons. Next slide, please. So because of that, we try to do quite a bit of outreach, and there's a whole slew of ways that we do this. Trainings and workshops. We provide written guidance and just, phone calls, doing combined inspections, things like that. Mostly we write comment letters, formal comment letters on different different reclamation documents. Of course, we have our forms and checklists to help them through different processes. We do email blasts to let folks know about things, website updates, and then, of course, those meetings, right? Most of this happens at the staff to staff or manager to manager level, right? So it's, for instance, DMRs, staff, or our program managers meeting with their peers at the county. And click for me, next slide. What the effort that I'm going to talk about next is really, go back one for me. Thank you. It is really exec to exec. So because counties have multiple priorities, they also have sometimes staff turnover depending upon the county, so that the institutional knowledge disappears. They just have resource issues. And again, counties do so much, right? Staff and usually program managers don't have too much say over how high a priority the work is or how many resources get devoted to it, right? So those kinds of decisions need to be made by decision makers. So the effort that we're undertaking is really exec to exec. It includes everybody because, of course, we need our subject matter experts. But when you have them in the room, hopefully you get a little bit more movement on some of these other things like priorities and resources. Okay, next slide for me, please. So essentially, we decided that CGS, the board, and DMR would get together and reach out directly to lead agencies, so cities and counties. Again, just sort of showing there has to be open lines communication in all directions here, but we all need to be talking to local governments pretty regularly. Next slide. And essentially, this is really just us showing up, usually in person, at the county and, showing them that it's a priority for us and that we're there to support them. Essentially, our agendas are really designed to make sure that we're all on the same page to start and then open a discussion. So we have introductions. We go through, like I call it SMARA 101, the basics. A lot of times we have our peers in the room. So I'm talking about deputy or directors of planning departments, county executive, et cetera. Again, they don't know the details, right? So we provide that, make sure that we all have a same understanding. We go through all the different roles and responsibilities because SMARA, these 4 entities have so much divided authority. We go through those and make sure we all agree on that. And then if we need to, we provide county-specific information. So this could be ordinance updates for the board. It could be specific areas of mineral reserves that need protecting from CGS. It could be priority reclamation planning that we have in DMR. But the majority of the meeting is really having an open discussion and essentially just saying, okay, what do you want to talk about? And if we get crickets, we prompt them with things like, okay, well, what challenges are you experiencing? Can we help you resolve them together? But really the intent is just to remind them that we are technical experts. We know that they only have a small piece or there's a small piece of what they do, but we're there to support them should they need it. I don't have a slide on, how effective this has been because we've only been to one mine or one site. That's Merced. And it's because we've just launched this. Also, it's myself, it's Fred Juice, who is the program manager in CGS, the executive officer and the board chair of the board. So it's a pretty big effort to get all those folks around. But I'm confident that it is going to be effective. I think with the counties, but it's also just opened up additional lines of regular communication between DMR, the board, and CGS, which I think is super valuable. I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsay and Mallory. It was really great to hear from the both of you. I'm going to move us right along because it's 9:50 already. And here we are at our last presentation of the hour. This specific update, in my mind, is very emblematic of a collaborative site visit approach where a diverse network of DOC colleagues, subject matter experts, and interagency partners, as well as local stakeholders, were engaged to make this in-person effort effective and genuinely meaningful. So I'll first start with providing a little bit of context on this effort and a general timeline of the trajectory. So this initiative began with a resident from West Hills, which for those who don't know is a neighborhood located in the western region of Los Angeles. This resident raised concerns about environmental and community impacts related to CalGEM's oil and gas well abandonment project site that is very close to housing communities in West Hills, as well as within a public recreational site that's very well used in terms of their hiking trails. So this resident contacted the Office of Legislative and Regulatory Affairs, also known as OLRA, and OLRA promptly responded to this resident. And after a few exchanges, OLRA reached out to the outreach and engagement team, which consists of Sarah and myself, to step in and support the facilitation of a relationship with this resident so we could better understand her questions and her concerns. And through ongoing dialogue by way of phone calls, emails, and even text messages, we came to understand her concerns and in the process recognized her as a really valuable partner who has strong local government connections that could help improve communication between state, us, and on the ground local partners in this project area. So within this process, as we got to know this resident, we recognized also that a handful of her questions about the project site were beyond the DOC's jurisdiction. And some questions were best directed to our interagency and local partners. For example, some of her questions were about soil and water contamination, wildlife habitat, access routes, etc. So because of this, we chose to coordinate a virtual meeting with this resident and our interagency partners to have an open discussion and an open Q&A between the subject matter experts and the resident. And one of the many positive outcomes of this meeting was greater clarity around who the main points of contact are should further questions arise about those specific subject areas. So she knew exactly who to go to with what specific questions. And I'm going to ask that you mute yourself, pretty please. So let's see, as you see on this slide, this is the day of the site visit. This effort took 4 months of intentional detailed planning with an internal team, as well as planning sessions with our interagency partners from our legal department, from CalGEM, and then of course the Public Affairs Office. So within the months of intentional and detailed planning, we coordinated this site visit as comprehensive as we possibly could. You see the trip itinerary there listed on the slide. Crystal mentioned earlier how valuable, and I'm paraphrasing here, it is to do direct outreach to people to encourage them to attend a site visit, and to have that kind of targeted outreach really can make an impact and dictate the wide net, the wide diversity of participants to represent all aspects of interest and involvement in this particular project site. So fast forward to the day of the site visit, the West Hills resident was certainly there and very engaged. She also had invited several local government representatives, so she too supported the great turnout that we experienced. Additionally, Dylan Goldsage from OLRA did a fantastic job with ensuring that local government representatives were invited as well. So this truly was a collaborative site visit approach with many different types of leaders contributing to make it all happen. Let's see. So you'll see on this slide as well at the top right, top left corner, we have a map that was provided to participants. Mike Cannon will touch a little bit more on this in a moment, but we included a map printout as well as other printed documentation to help support the deeper understanding of participants' knowledge and awareness of the site. The work that has been done, the work that is planned to be done, and any additional impacts that arise as the progress takes place. And as you see in the photos, the rain in LA did not deter us, even though that rain felt very random, but it did not deter us from gathering together. My DOC colleagues, our partners, and the local resident placed great effort into ensuring the turnout. So that's just a testament to how really dedicating time into the outreach can make an impact, and people will show up, rain or shine. Before the site tour, we had everyone introduce themselves and share about their role and organization or agency. So everyone had, again, a clear sense of who was there, who are the subject matter experts, and who's the most appropriate and helpful point of contact when questions come up or concerns come up in the future. This also created an excellent opportunity for networking. You can't really place a value on placing faces with their names. We often are exchanging emails and we don't know really who we're talking to. And that actually can impact our connection and relatability to the person that we're collaborating with. So this really made a difference in that aspect as well. And again, being together is now the new norm. And these regular site visits and public meetings, which we'll talk about in a moment, Jeanette Ochoa will talk about in a moment, are the new norm. And with that said, I'm excited to hand it over to my colleague, Mike Cannon, to offer you a bit more insights and perspectives on his experience as the subject matter expert at the site visit. Mike?
All right. Thanks, Jamie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Cannon, and I'm an associate oil and gas engineer with CalGEM. I've recently had the pleasure of working with the Public Affairs Office outreach and engagement team during the prep and outreach phase of CalGEM's Orphan Well plugging and abandonment project in Canoga Park. As Jamie explained, the PAO team organized a diverse group of attendees from local agencies and the surrounding community in order to give stakeholders a venue to discuss their concerns or questions with the relevant parties. We led the group on a half-mile round-trip hike to the project site through some unanticipated rain and ultra-muddy conditions, and I spoke to the group about the objectives of CalGEM's Orphan Well program, which aims to address the risks posed by legacy oil and gas wells and facilities in our communities. I described some of the basics of well plugging and described CalGEM's abandonment requirements, such as plugging across oil and gas zones and the protection of freshwater aquifers. I spoke a little bit about CalGEM's goal to restore the site to as near a natural state as possible and described the ongoing coordination between CalGEM and the local water boards to develop a sampling plan in order to address any potential soil impacts after the plugging of the wells is complete. We then led the group on a short tour of the project site. We highlighted the location of 6 orphaned oil and gas wells that are exposed above the ground surface, and also the associated tanks and pipelines. With the help of our contractor, I pointed out areas that would be used for the staging of equipment, and also pointed out areas that would require grading and earthwork in order to establish access for the well plugging equipment. To speak a little bit about my experience as a subject matter expert, you know, when initially approached and asked to lead the group, I was a bit nervous because as an engineer, a lot of the work I'm doing is at a desk behind the scenes, and I don't speak publicly too often. I have a couple slight fears when presenting that, you know, I'll finish my speaking piece and I might get nothing but blank stares from a disinterested audience, or conversely, I might get some really technical question that I am unable to answer. So those are a couple, you know, fears I had going into the experience. I will say, however, that for this event, that was definitely not the case. I found that the front end work performed by Jamie, Sarah, Jeanette, and the whole public outreach team was extremely valuable. On one hand, they provided an itinerary and an objective list so that when attendees arrived, they came with really focused and relevant questions about the material. And then on the other hand, they pulled together this really robust list of attendees. So when those, you know, technical questions about things that maybe I'm not the expert on rolled in, I had a really great group of people there to support me and give the stakeholders the answers they were looking for. Again, the group of attendees showed a tremendous amount of interest and excitement despite the rain and the muddy conditions. And, you know, the efforts that the outreach team put in here were really instrumental to the success of our meeting. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you guys, Jamie, Sarah, Jeanette, the whole public outreach team, for making our meeting a success. So thank you. And thanks for allowing me to speak today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Shout out to you as well. And I know we're super tight on time, y'all, so hang tight if you can. And if you need to drop off, totally okay, very much understandable. But I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jeanette Ochoa, to cover the most recent public meeting that we had in West Hills.
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning, everyone. Jeanette Ochoa. I serve as the Bilingual Outreach and Communication Analyst for DOC's Public Affairs Office. And that's right, just last week on Wednesday, September 10th, our team hosted a public community meeting in the West Hills neighborhood to share the information of the upcoming state abandonment project at the Canoga Park oil field. This event was held in the evening at a local colorful Montessori school, and we were thrilled by the strong turnout. We had around 40 attendees. Most were the longtime local residents, along with representatives from the Homeowners Association. We had people from the Fire Safe Council, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, as well as staff from 2 elected officials. So that was great to see. And per usual, we did provide Spanish interpretation at this meeting. While no Spanish-only speakers attended this time around, it still showed our readiness and commitment to exclusivity and equitable communication. Residents received detailed presentations from our CalGEM project managers and the CalGEM's contractor, Drill Tech. They covered the project's mid-October start, safety protocols, and step-by-step explanation on how the work will proceed. Attendees also received printed materials, including the Community Health and Safety Notification Plan, walking away with clear, reliable information on how to contact us. And I must say the Q&A session was the real star of the evening. It was filled with thoughtful questions from the community, honest, objective answers from CalGEM and Drill Tech, and we even had a few chuckles and laughs, so that was great. This exchange helped strengthen the trust and transparency between the community and our team. Attendees expressed both gratitude and reassurance for addressing their concerns. I just want to close by thanking everyone who contributed to making this meeting a success. A special thank you to Sarah and Jamie and our Southern CalGEM District leadership team. As always, Rohit Sharma, Pete Vasquez, Netta Taffy, Robert Schaff, and Barry Eyrick for their expertise, presence, and support. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeanette. That was great. Thank you. Thank you. It really was a successful public meeting. That was really great. Okay, so for those who are still on and haven't dropped off, the very last thing that we have for you is an interactive poll. So if you can pull out your phone and scan the QR code to join the poll, that would be fantastic. You may or may not have to enter in that code at the top there, but go ahead and scan the QR code and it should open up. And I am going to stop sharing my screen so I can then pivot over to the poll and see the responses. Let me know if you have any trouble accessing it, but for the most part, I think you should be okay. I just dropped the link to the poll in the chat as well if you would like to access it that way and you don't happen to have your phone with you. So what did you find most inspiring about today's updates? I'm super curious. We have the variety, definitely, the emphasis on community, commitment to engagement, tribal engagement, yes, collaboration, the diversity of projects. I think all of this definitely reflects our presentations very well, and I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. Yeah, the variety of staff. I really appreciate having all the different voices share their highlights and their accomplishments, public collaboration, diversity of people. Excellent. See if I can make this bigger, a little bit bigger. There we go. Nice overviews, positive energy, transparency. Yes, humility. Oh, that's so sweet. Kindness, recognition of staff, so important. Definitely one of the objectives. Public service. And I will finish with all of the firsts. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm so glad you were here. Keep adding to the poll if you'd like. Wishing you a great rest of your week. If you have any questions for our presenters, reach out. I can connect them with you. If you need anything from Sarah, myself, or Jeanette, we are available as well. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.